Hi everybody, Dr. Samantha Luther here, pediatric and family chiropractor in Lincoln, Nebraska. And today's webinar is going to be about the cold and flu season and how to beat it and win. Kind of like to call this one sometimes Kick the Sick. And so let's find out some ways of how and maybe why this is happening. And you notice your child that always kind of, every season that this season comes back around, and I know it's a crazy time of year and we'll get into that too, but like every year you might be dreading like, oh man, we're gonna get the flu or we're gonna get the cold. And like, why does this always happen? Is there anything else we could be doing? Where I feel like we're doing as much as we can, and just kind of letting you know some maybe different ways of how to kickstart, boost up that immunity so you can fight the season off with everything that you have and your little human being, your little child has. So, and then also the thing we're going to talk about is just how to boost your immunity, how to do it naturally, and just teaching your immune system to be healthy. There's ways that we can actually influence our immune system to kind of be the first line of defense that it should be and be functioning and doing that properly and to the fullest extent that it can. And so, like I say, this can be a very challenging time of year. We have all of the holidays, we have change in season. That just kind of makes a lot of us a little bit more stressed just overall. I know I suffer with like these darker, colder days. You go to work sometimes when it's dark, or most of the time when it's dark, and you get home when it's dark. And then like, when does that leave any time, to do some of these things that we're going to be talking about today? But it's important to try to work that in, even though, like I say, we're in just a tough time. And then you throw in the holidays, and you might have one of those crazy big families which you have to go and do so much with, or you don't, and that kind of makes you feel a little down and blue as well. So there's just we're going to be talking about ways to balance some of those things out, and like I say, what we can do. There's a lot that goes into chronic immune challenges. We're talking different than like someone that just might get like, a 12 to 24 hour cold or flu. There gets to be multiple fevers involved, multiple colds, multiple flus, and multiple coughs, congestions, all of those that you can kind of just see. And like, this even goes back, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, this even goes back to like maybe one of your kiddos who had chronic ear infections. Now how are they doing like at that 5, 6, 7, 8 range, and even into their teenage years? Are they always kind of getting sick as well? I just want to maybe like kick on, turn on a little bit of a light bulb and get you guys to thinking, yeah, he or she has had the ear infections, and he or she is sick a lot more often. But like I say, it's always a time of year when people are just sick, and it's really unfortunate because then that means that kiddos are missing out on school, and a lot of school, and that puts a lot of stress on them and on you. And then also, if kiddos are sick and having to be at home, that means the parents are having to miss work. And so that's not good either, and that puts a little bit of a strain on the family, a strain on mom and dad, and just doesn't do anybody any favors. So when I've talked about this with other clients, let me put my papers down so I quit rattling them. I have parents feel like they're sick ones, and if they're ones that do get sick a lot, like they just never completely get over it, and it just lingers on. Think if you have one of your kiddos like that, like they get a little bit of a cold and then it just kind of hangs on. They still will have, like maybe they had a major cold and they still have a cough. Or still will have a runny nose, or still are sneezing a lot. Or if they get the flu, they might not just fully get their energy back, and then they get the flu again. And the same thing with those colds. They get it once, and then they get it again, and maybe multiple times in that cold and flu season. That kind of gives us a sign that there's some chronic immune system challenges going on there. And it's a tough, and you also do feel like your kid's having a tough time getting over that hump and like finally getting a little bit healthy and on their way and fully mending. But the good news is that I see lots of kiddos here. Like I say, starting with little ones all the way back with like the ear infection stage. If I'm able to get a hold of them then as a chiropractor and influence their nervous system, they're my kiddos that actually grow up and they're actually able to beat this cold and flu season a little bit better. I do have some parents that bring kiddos in and they're like, oh my gosh, we'll go over something that maybe they had happen. And then I dig deep into histories and I kind of find like, what were they like as a little kiddo? What are they like, now? Or do they get sick often? And if they're like, Yeah, they get sick often, but we actually just came in here for his headaches. And then like we get to dive into then seeing how their immune system is actually functioning or kind of not functioning at the best. And we see then kiddos then that have like the chronic colds, the chronic flus, and like how we're able to help them and kind of be a better, stronger little kiddo and fighting those things off better. But today, like the main thing that I want to talk about is something that I like to call adaptability. Like it sounds like, your body's able to adapt, and it then teaches your body to be healthy. With adaptability, your body's able to adapt to its stressors, cope, respond to life's stresses way better. And so then that way, if we have adaptability functioning, going at 100% within our body, it has more energy and more reserve and an increased immune system response to fight off all of these foreign invaders that are causing these colds and these flus. And so with adaptability, you might have noticed that you have one child that gets sick a lot more than maybe your other one. And like I say, they're in the same environment, they're sharing the same germs, they're in the same home, they're going maybe to the same school, that might be a little bit something, but like they're all going to all these same things. So it's like, well, usually like if there's an environmental factor that's going on here, they picked it up from somewhere, why does child A over here always get it, but child B doesn't? And then why doesn't child B get it? Because they're actually living in the same household. How's it not get switched over and spread over to child B? So you might have one of those kiddos, and maybe think about that with your own that you have that, or if you only have one, think like, are they getting sick? I feel like a lot more than even their friends, because that just lets us know that maybe that kid's body just isn't adapting as well and coping with those stressors. And we're gonna be talking about stress here just in a little bit, coping with those stressors that kind of bombards our nervous system and then therefore our immune system. So our office, we can do a lot with this, and we're actually able to measure how well a child's body is adapting to stress and just how well it is adapting. We have a fantastic, like state-of-the-art nervous system, neurological testing system that we use here, and it lets me know where this child is and how their body is adapting to stress. It's fantastic. You'll be wondering like, well, how do you do that? We'll be getting to a section here where we talk about two different parts of our nervous systems called the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. And that's the system that we're gonna be testing on how well that adaptability is happening within your child. But we'll get to that. Give me a second. But anyway, like whenever we're able to measure this and see how they are adapting or see how they're not adapting, we're able to then figure out why. I can literally look at a scan and look at a scan of a child's spine and of their nervous system and how it's functioning, and I can go directly there and say, this right here is why your kiddo's getting sick all the time. And many times when we have these awesome review of system forms, and right up here we have ear infection, sinuses, colic, excessive crying even with our little ones, but going down sore throat, strep throat, swollen tonsils, difficulty sleeping, that's a big one too. Where else do we got? Yes, colds and coughs, congestion, all residing within that up in that cervical spine. That's where a lot of the nerve supply from our nervous system exits out through our cervical spine and goes and helps with all of those conditions. And so that part of our nervous system is clogged up, not functioning well, stressed out, the body's not going to be able to function and adapt as it should. And so that's where we kind of look to with us as chiropractors, and we look to treating the root cause of things without having to give your child, you know, over-the-counter medications or going on how many rounds of antibiotics or how many rounds of steroids even that I hear kiddos going on. And we can actually prevent a lot of that just with having their immune system boosted big time. And like I say, with that, they're able to fight off all of those, you know, foreign invaders that are trying to take over their immune system. Good news too on that, and we'll get to this, that chiropractic actually can boost your immune system by 200%. Who wouldn't want that? So during the time of the coronavirus, when all of that was going on, so many people, yes, there was a virus that was a major threat, but most of us weren't impacted by the virus. We're impacted in other ways, and that was stress. That's our stressed mode was kicked on so much that people's immune system wanted to kind of take a crash. I mean, how many of us during that time almost just felt drained, felt exhausted, didn't have all of the energy, and might have just like, each time, I know this, and this is kind of funny, like I never got sick during that time, but like I would get like a sore throat or like just a little bit of a cough, and I'd be like, Rona, is that you? And I'd be like, oh God, here we go. But it never was. And what it was just like the over amount of stress that I was taking on and not processing the best for me, and not adapting in the way that I should have. So even as a chiropractor who gets adjusted 2 to 3 times a week, my body was even going, holy cow, like we are on stress overload and I am exhausted. And so just to kind of let you know that like it can hit any of us. So stress and all that's okay, and we're gonna teach you how to do these things. So let's get you over your fear of that cold and flu season, because like I say, I'm around kids so much in my office that are coming in and they have the runny, snotty noses, they're coughing, they're hacking, they might have had the flu, or they actually, parents, and I love it, parents actually bring their kids in whenever they're sick. They're like, little junior here has a 102 temp and has the flu. What should I do? Bring him in. I want to get him adjusted. Let's get him, his nervous system boosted. Let's get him functioning and fighting us off from the inside and burning that up and burning that out of his system. So like I'm around these kiddos a lot, and I can maybe count on one hand in the last 10 to 15 years the amount of times that I've come down with even a cold. So like I say, that has something to be said for it. And like I say, I'm a chiropractor that gets adjusted at least once a week, if not 2 to 3 times a week. But so anyway, here are the 5 reasons. Let's get into why in the world does this cold and flu season pop up every single year. And the first one that we're going to be talking about is the first 5, here we go. Oh, sorry, lost my train of focus. The first one is going to be during this time, we're kind of around, you know, we're into Halloween and we're into Thanksgiving, we're into Christmas, all those things. What's something that changes? We increase our sugar intake incredibly and the amount of carbohydrates that we eat. Not the healthy carbs, we're talking about grandma's apple pie, some mashed potatoes, and we're talking about all of that good stuff that comes with the holidays. And we should enjoy that. We shouldn't be worried to not eat those things because it comes around once a year. Enjoy it, do it. But with that being said, if our body's able to adapt to those things coming in, it's going to be able to fight off anything that might throw us through a loop then. But anyway, with that said, increased sugar is almost like it's such a killer, man. It is so bad, and I love sugar. Like, if you bring me chocolate, it's gone in a day. It's bad, so just don't even bring it around. But with increased sugar, sugar actually decreases our immunity because sugar allows like a more susceptibility and lack of adaptability to happen. And actually colds and flus thrive off of sugar. It is like handing a steak to a man. Like sugars and carbs fuels the fire of those colds and flus. So don't give them that food. Cut that food source out and like don't let it thrive off of those sugars and carbs. Number 2 reason for why this cold and flu season kicks in is going to be it's a season of stress. We all know it. There's so many parties to get to. There's so many changes in our routines. Finances might become an issue for some of us just because of Christmas and, you know, and all of these, like I say, parties and events and getting gifts for this and getting gifts for that person. All of this just becomes a major stress to our body. And it just kind of, like I say, it's all there. It's just heightened. We all know what it's like around the holidays. As a kid, it's awesome. As an adult, you're like, oh, could it just be January already? But once again, our body doesn't adapt as well under this stress, and we, you know, just get exhausted. Our nervous system gets out of balance. We get thrown off a little bit. And with the balanced nervous system, we're just able to relax our body and whatnot. So like we just need to focus on how we can maybe start to allow that body to relax. It's also a season of a lack of sunshine. Yes, welcome to the Midwest. But like we have it's tough here in the winter. It is because like I say, the days are so much shorter. We are going to work sometimes in the dark. We are getting home in the dark. The kids don't have very much time after they've done all their schoolwork to go outside and do anything. But that's why, you know, getting those high doses of good vitamin D is essential, and we'll get into some other supplements here in a little bit. But even getting outside during those days is anything that can help with that, because I know it might still be cold and like you see the sun and it's a bright sunny day, but it's still freezing out. Still get out into that sun, because even though it's not the warmth that we want, that vitamin D is just going to be getting soaked into us. So kind of that's what help combats those shorter days and lack of sunshine. Another thing, it's a season of lack of physical activity. Excuse me, not for everybody, but for a lot. It's so much easier to go for a walk or for a bike ride or for a run, or doing anything outside whenever it's beautiful out. But around this time, like, it's not fun to get out. It's not even fun to get in your car, out of bed, into your car to go work out in the dark, because it's still dark, because you have to get back in time to get ready and go to work, or vice versa at the end of the day. And it's like, it's just hard to get out. So we might not be exercising as much, but and we end up putting ourselves kind of on the back burner there. That's not what we want to do during this season. But then, and then also then like the busyness. We all know how hard it is to make that time to like work out and get moving. But the good thing with exercise and working out, so if you think about like all the stress that we're kind of going under at this time, we have increased stress hormones being pumped into our body, and like if they just are able to sit there and reside within like all of our muscles and all of our organs and stuff like that, and just get sluggish and like just not move through as well, the second you get moving, you're burning those out. They're almost like evaporating out of your system. Get moving, get those stress hormones cooked out of your system, get those endorphins brought back into your system, and just like the second we get moving, we just feel so much better. And this, like I say, it also just increases the endorphins, and those are some good feeling hormones and stuff like that get released into our bodies. And I don't think there's ever been a time like when I got done with the workout and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like crap now. No, you feel so much better. So like I say, in a season of lack of activity, let's try to boost a little bit more activity. And then lastly, why we have the cold and flu season is this might also be a season of poor sleep. Once again, with the stressors of the holidays, the change of routine, and being just overstimulated. Who doesn't feel overstimulated from mid-October to January 15th? That's 3 months. That's a quarter of the year. And so we're just overstimulated during this time, and maybe our brain isn't able to shut back down. Sleep takes a hit on the kids as well, because they're kind of, you know, like they're in school for a while, and then it's Thanksgiving, then they're back in school, and then it's Christmas, and then like that routine gets thrown off. And so it's just a excuse me, it's just a tough time keeping excuse me, I need to get a drink of water. A tough time keeping that sleep schedule going. But if you can, that's one of the best things that you can do, because it kind of helps infiltrate the rest of your day. And it's like just sticking to a good routine, trying to get to bed a little bit earlier if you can, getting a good night's sleep, getting adjusted, you know, and like helping those stresses get out of your body. And so that's kind of the top 5 things that we kind of went over there, like the sugars and carbs, season of stress, season of lack of sunshine, season of lack of activity, and season of lack of sleep. So if we can focus on those 5 and how to increase them, boost them, and do a little bit better, those are going to be some external factors that we're able to control and things that you're able to do. And so like with me, I then come in as a chiropractor, and we teach, this is how we're now going to talk into and transition into how to teach your nervous system to be healthy. And you're like, teach it? Like, I didn't know you could do that. There are some ways to help influence it. And the first one I'm going to talk about, and you might think I'm a little voodoo and I'm like burning incense in the background or something like that. But our mind is such a strong and positive. I'm doing just a second, let me interject here. I'm doing a talk on cough, colds, and flu, and here I am coughing, but it's a tickle. Anyway, so whenever we start to talk about like teaching your immune system, our brains are so strong and such a powerful force. Many of you probably know that, and like The Power of Positivity, great book by the way. That's where it comes in, like what you think about, you bring about. And so if you're focusing on negativity, negative, you're gonna get negative outcome. If you're focusing on positive, you're gonna get positive outcomes. If you're focusing on unhealthy and sick and all of this, you're gonna be unhealthy and sick. If you focus on being healthy and having a thriving body, you're gonna focus on that, and that's where your body's gonna go. You're like leading your body on how you want it to function. So there's just the tip number one. The second one right now that I want to talk about is where I come in. As a chiropractor, this is my passion. This is my bread and butter. This is like, oh, everything. So our nervous system controls everything in our human body. Most people think of chiropractors as like back pain, neck pain, whatever. But no, like as chiropractors and with our nervous system, we are primarily nervous system doctors. We are making sure that your nervous system is functioning the most optimally that it possibly can. And by doing that, we're then able to influence every other system within your body. And guess what one of those systems is? Your immune system. So with that, if you have a stressed nervous system, a stressed out nervous system, we're going to get to stressors here in a second. And if you have a stressed nervous system, you're then therefore going to have a stressed immune system. When you have a stressed immune system, it has to react in some way. Guess how it reacts? It starts to show all of these external outward signs: coughs, colds, flus, fevers, congestion, strep throat, sore throats. All of these things start to manifest because your immune system is wrecked. It is taxed, and it has literally thrown in the towel right there. And so that's where as chiropractors we come in, and this is where it gets sad with these kiddos that get kind of stuck in this chronic immune system challenge. Their system is stuck in that stress, stuck on mode. And so it almost becomes a vicious cycle, and we have to break that cycle, and that's where chiropractic comes in. So at the beginning of this video, I talked about the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. You can Google those two terms. You will find a whole host of information. So whenever I say nervous system stuck on, that means the immune system stress is stuck on. So whenever that is stuck on, you can almost think of that as like a gas pedal. And if we are ramping down the gas pedal, it is going, stress stuck on. This is where stress keeps going and keeps happening, and the body can't heal. But the good news is we have another part of our nervous system called the parasympathetic nervous system that is our healing part of our nervous system. It is the one that allows us to relax, rest, digest, heal, grow, develop, all of these amazing things. And so whenever we've talked about stress so much here, think about it almost as where there's so many stressors that goes on in our life, and you're wondering okay, get to it. So let's actually get to it right now. We have physical stresses. So you have, like with your kids, they're running around, they're rambunctious, they're falling a lot, they're tripping a lot, they're running into things, they're falling off of bikes, they're involved in sports, they're getting kicked by their brother or sister, they're falling down the stairs. All of those things manifest into a physical stressor put onto the body. And then we have chemical stressors. And chemical stressors are going to be something for kids. Usually this is diet related. What are they putting into their body? Are they putting in a lot of sugar? Are they putting a lot of, not so great carbs? Because those are a stress to our body that actually has to secrete and do different things in order to secrete different hormones and different digestive juices to digest all of that stuff. So it's an added stress versus throwing an apple down into the system. The body's like, oh, this one's easy peasy. Oh wait, this donut and Pop-Tart and sugary Hawaiian punch for breakfast. What in the world is this? It's going to cause insulin spikes. It's going to do all sorts of stuff that your body's in like stress, in a stress mode right there, just by what they're eating. And then the last one's emotional stress. This is what we usually think about stress. We're anxious, we're stressed out. We have all sorts of things we need to do. Kids have the stress of schoolwork. They have the stress of fitting in with friends, with social media, with doing great in sports. So there's all these stresses that these little kiddos' bodies add up. And that's no wonder that their body gets stuck into that stress response. Most of the time, it's almost subconscious, but it's just these little itty bitty stressors that eventually just keep building, and then manifest into these immune challenges that these kids are facing. So I hope that kind of makes some sense right there. So once again, with that sympathetic and parasympathetic, sympathetic is over here, and sympathetic and parasympathetic can't be on at the same time. Only one can be turned on at the same time. So we have our gas pedal over here, we have our brake pedal over here. Gas means bam, we're going, stress is still stuck on. Brake pedal is coming in and going, whoo, calm down. We're coming to a stop now. And so then that's whenever the body can finally go, oh, okay, like we're healing now. Oh, I can relax. That means I can, you know, build my immune system, and that means I can fight off all this gunk that's going on because my body is actually not stressed and now has the energy to put forth to this. So there's your missing link, everybody. And with colds and stuff, they can be very, very common, but let me tell you, they're not normal. We have many, many kids in my office that have been getting adjusted regularly and their nervous systems checked regularly, and they rarely get sick. I have some other ones that do. We're still working with them. So that's just kind of where that chiropractic connection comes in, and how I want you to take home from this how your nervous system influences your immune system. And if your nervous system is stressed, therefore then your immune system is stressed, and then therefore it's going to show all of these things and not be able to fight off the colds and the flus and all those things like we want it to. So once again, once we take care of stressors, we're killing it. We're doing good. We got to build in that relaxation, that calm state. That's what's going to start to teach our immune system to be healthy, and what I want to talk to you guys about. Coughs, and like just to go on a side note, coughs and colds and congestions are okay. Let me say okay. But it's part of the building the immunity as well. So like if you notice like your kids like, oh gosh, they got a cold, they got a cough, but we've been getting adjusted every day. No, that's okay. Those things are gonna happen. But you know what? These kids are gonna bounce back faster. And it might be only like a 12 to 24 hour cold or flu, and they're kicking it. They're kicking the sick really, really well. But to become chronic is not good. That just shows us that their immune system is really weakened and it's just not able to fight like it should. And it kind of becomes a bigger challenge than what we might think. Many times I see this as like a trickling effect. And so whenever I talked about those kiddos in the beginning that had like the ear infections, their ears are causing like something to go on wrong within, there's something going on within their immunity as well. They're just not able to fight off like the bacteria or the virus that's within their ear. And so then that actually will eventually drain down into the throat and into the tonsils, where those tonsils are supposed to be now fighting off. Well, now the tonsils can't because they're overstressed and overtaxed. And then that drainage eventually, I mean, all this drainage has to work its way somewhere. And then that drainage will work its way into the stomach, it'll work its way into the lungs and cause a whole host of other issues, you know, from having upset stomach to even then croup to asthma and all that if it gets down into the lungs. And so this is where that whole trickling effect can kind of sometimes happen, even with our kiddos starting in that ear infection phase. So kind of be in tune with that, looking to that, and then just also seeing how they're adapting throughout that time. So that's just kind of the chiropractic advantage there. We see, like I say, a ton of kids, and I love taking care of kids because their bodies don't have as much stress as we do as adults. So like they actually adapt way quicker and way faster, which is awesome to see. But again, it does take some time, but like getting their immune system functioning and firing as it should is some of the best things ever. And they're adapting and they're killing it, and I love it. So once again, just things that you can do still to like kick the sick, get through that cold and flu season without the fear of like, oh Lord, here we go again. Increase you and your child's adaptability. Get them adjusted. It's incredible. And like I said, it's even been proven to boost the immune system by 200%, as well as chiropractic is able to decrease inflammation. Inflammation is just a whole nother thing. Like it's systemic inflammation, just not of a little part, systemic. And we get able to get that inflammation down within the body and help kick that sick, get it out of here. Eat healthy. I'm going to encourage y'all just to eat healthy. I know it's hard right now, but even just like increasing just like the healthy, good fruits, vegetables, healthy fats, avocados, olive oil, just good stuff like that is just going to help your body be even more in there ready to fight these things off as well. Once again, I said like before, get moving. Movement is the best thing that we can do. It pushes all of that gunk through that, all that sludge, like get it out, burn it out. And the second we actually increase our body temperature, that increases our blood temperature. And so like that almost helps boil it, cook it out. It gets it burn out of the system a little bit faster, and then you're able to heal. The body still doesn't have that stuff kind of blacking and holding it back from that adapting phase. And then just keeping up with Oh, and then, yes, the supplements. Keeping up with good supplements. Be sure to get quality ones. Please message me if you have questions on quality supplements and where to go. But really be looking at increasing your vitamin D intake during this time, during kind of like the darker day seasons. Magnesium is also fantastic for us and allows us to let the muscles kind of work as they should, and allows to help with like sleep and regulation of sleep, and like even decreasing some anxiety symptoms there. And then also fish oil. Once again, check with a pediatric chiropractor, you know, on the things, or like a holistic doctor on like what is the correct dosage for my child on all three of these supplements, vitamin D, fish oil, and magnesium, because kids are going to be obviously much different than adults. So anyway, I hope this has brought in some great information to you guys. I love chatting with you guys about this because it's so cool once you see like a kiddo that's feeling better and thriving and not sick and able to stay in school, just like what that does to them and their overall, you know, morale and all of that. And then also not just the kid, what it does for the family. Mom and dad's gonna be a little less stressed. The family's gonna be less stressed. You guys can actually enjoy this holiday season, and by allowing your nervous system and by allowing your body to be able to adapt to all these stresses, it's just gonna be a walk in the park. And like I say, you can then actually enjoy this time. Thanks for listening in. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to me, Dr. Samantha Luther at SJL Wellness. You can reach me at 402-432-7702 or sjlwellness@gmail.com. Thank you, guys.